My high C38, Leo Coys and KTK. Lucas on the flight, causing turbulence, causing waves on our way to the Confluence. New voice for the fans, from the pitch to the stands. My high looks than the South Bank lads. Leo Coys and a homie Krash. Hold up, what's this? A raft on the water to the Confluence. Yeah. It's chance, I'm bound to rounds, I love the head to the wars. If it's this, you're off the C38. This time is now. Locals on the jump to hold it down. Like the stream and do 5 stars. The mile high hot spur and crash the car.
Yes, you filthy animals. Welcome back to the Confluence. My name is Leo Coys, the Mile High Hotspur, and I'm joined by my homie, triple certified rapid sicko, the driver of the Daddy Shuttle, and the co-host of this here podcast, my homie Krash, the Karsh. KTK, talk to the homies. How are we doing?
Oh, doing good. It's tryout season is officially over for us. We're wrapping up everything with the club for the year. Had a tournament last weekend. As some of you saw who hung out with us with the watch along, got home a bit late from that. But yeah, no, for me it's been good. It's been a cold, rainy couple days here in Colorado and Denver. I was out on the pitch last night for the last day of tryouts with my girls, and so now I'm just kind of hanging out. It's a much more quiet week. My kiddos are all graduating or continuing to their next grade. My son tomorrow is his preschool graduation. He's going to be kindergarten next year, so we've got that coming up. My daughter is doing her continuation from 5th grade to middle school to 6th grade next year, so she's got that on Thursday. So this is a big week of just family stuff, wrapping up, getting, finding out where the kids are for their teams for next season, which is pretty exciting. So we're all really happy and excited to see where everybody lands and ends up, and excited for the next season, but looking for a nice break here with the season this summer. And so that's where it's been with me. It's been getting fighting off a bit of the cold that's been going around, so my voice is finally coming back, but I still have a cough here and there, but definitely much better than I was the past couple of days, and just excited to get back into Dick's tomorrow.
Big up, homie. And honestly, Krash, I know I've told you this before, bro, and I'm going to double down and tell you again. One of the things I admire about you, and one of the things that I absolutely love sharing this platform with you, is being a father figure. You know, you the father that you are to your kids. It's inspiring, bro. You know what I mean? I enjoy being a father. I love my kids with all my heart, bro. And I know you do too. So for me, it's not the most important thing that, a make or break deal, but
sure,
I absolutely love sharing this platform with a guy like yourself, bro. So let me give you your flowers. And you filthy animal, like I told you before, I got to give you some more flowers, bro. I know we have tons of listeners that, excuse me, well, I got the cough too, I guess. I know we have tons of listeners and followers who happen to go for the red team. You guys know I'm a diehard Tottenham Hotspur fan. But before I'm a Tottenham Hotspur fan, I'm a human being, and I have friends, and I have homies, and some of those homies just happen to support the Arsenal. And today it was confirmed. They won the Premier League, those pesky bastards. So I'm showing you guys some love and giving you guys some flowers, because it's a tough thing to do, and I'm glad that my homies are able to celebrate that, being as who knows when this guy will be able to celebrate that, if ever. So I'm happy, at least from my friends, from that point of view. And now that I got that out of my system, I guess I feel better.
Yep. Yeah, no, it was a good day seeing that, even though it wasn't a win that was generated by Arsenal, but it was by the loss of another with Man City drawing today. But it was exciting to see that. It was, they definitely put in a lot of work this season, and it was exciting to see them kind of get it over the finish line. The coaches group chat was blowing up as soon as Bournemouth drew, and all the gifts and all the excitement were going, and all the shithousery was happening at the same time. So it's always a good group. Everybody's got their club, and they joke and banter, and so it's always a fun environment, regardless of who you support. It's always a good time. But yeah, I gotta say it was a good day for the Gunners.
Yeah, well, and here I am, as much like I just said, big up. I know I got tons of homies, and I'm standing next to one. You know what I mean? So I actually like, from honestly, from the bottom of my heart, congrats to all my homies that are Gooner fans, including yourself, bro. But yeah, dude, look, the reason I'm bringing it up and delaying it is because I do not want to talk about the game at RSL. However, we must. We must. It was a game that the Rapids played a couple of days after, I want to say gaining some momentum. We went over to Minnesota and smash and grabbed 3 points. And I thought, bro, what better way to keep the momentum going than to have a good showing, a good display on the other side of the Rocky Mountains. And honestly, too, real quick before we go further, Krash, did you see the amount of Rapids fans that were there, bro? Tons of homies from the C38, tons of locals. When we scored our first goal, which we'll get into, they panned over to the away section, and it was full. Like it was dope. So my hat's off to all the homies that made the trek. I wonder how many beers you guys drank, because I know last time we went, they did the challenge to do 303 beers, Krash, which they blew out of the water in the weekend, bro. So I know they set a goal for this one, and it's just always good to see the homies that did end up going. Trash, how do you want to get into this game, bro? How do we get to talk about it? It was a nasty display. It started off a bit good, but it went tits up.
Yeah, I did. I do want to say big up to Logan. I know he did a lot of work and behind the scenes to help get everybody with tickets and everybody over there to support the team. I know I reached out. My wife was actually in town that weekend for a conference, and I was hoping she was going to be able to make it. She wasn't able to, but he was right there with me, just saying, "Hey, there is a ticket if you need it," and so I do appreciate that. So thank you for reaching out, and thank you for all that you did to help all the supporters get there, get tickets, and get that all organized. Cause I know that's a big effort and takes a lot of work, and planning to get that over there and to get the supporters there. It was a good showing and really appreciate it.
Yeah, big up to homie Logan, another Gooner, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
big up Logan. Yeah, no, bro. So it just kind of feels like, look, and we've kind of had this theme on the podcast, obviously, where we've emphasized the fixture congestion and throwing a derby in the middle of that congested run always was going to be a tough way to go. I think the team even stayed in Minnesota an extra day just so they didn't have to come back home and then head to Utah. So they ended up staying in Minnesota longer time and then going straight over there. So not like it's the make or break of the deal, but still, you know what I mean? That has to add to the tiredness of the legs. I mean, I'm just trying to make excuses for now, Krash, but
yeah.
Look, the Rapids look like a team, that we're running on fumes. Obviously, Real Salt Lake 2-1 against the Rapids in another painful Rocky Mountain Cup night at America First Field. And unfortunately for Rapids fans, it kind of feels like the same story that we've seen way too many times in Utah, Krash.
Yes.
Colorado actually started pretty well. They looked sharp early. They played with a bit of urgency. We had a couple of chances there. We seen the over the top ball played on from Ronan fairly early to Paxton Aronson, who cuts in and decides to have himself a shot very early, which I think was what led to our corner kick that gave us the goal. And the goal was, again, an excellent delivery from Connor Ronan, who I just love to big up whenever I get the chance. Even through the watch along, Big up all the sickos that tuned into the watch along. Appreciate you guys. I like the delivery again to Paxton Aronson. Paxton Aronson does a little shimmy, gets a little step in front, sends in a freaking thunderbolt to Wayne Frederick, who's right there to tap it in. Proper Matt Wells type goal, if you ask me. And so I thought we started the game off on the right foot, Krash, but then it turned, and we allowed RSL back into the game. I think it was Jackson Travis with, a misplaced pass. Krash, we can even say it was a freaking lazy effort of a pass, who gave it away to the RSL player, who then himself plays on, you got to help me with the name, Gozo? I think it was Gozo who scored the goal, that one.
He did,
yeah. Literally right in front of the goal as well. A great strike. Beats Nico Hansen. And then Krash in the second half, we're going to break it down. The second RSL goal, which was a beautiful cross. And look, I apologize, Rapids fans, for saying this. I even said it during the watch along. I can't believe it, but what a beauty of a goal. What a beauty of a cross from the RSL player. And one of the littlest guys on the pitch for RSL, in between both of our center backs, heads it home. Still has a lot to do for the goal. Puts it in the back of the net, and those pesky Utes are celebrating. Krash, we're down 2-1. And if you ask me, bro, I want to say after our first goal, we started just letting them creep in. That's when we were just playing the lazy balls, like we talked about from Jackson Travis. And we just let them into it, Krash. Thoughts, my homie?
Yeah, no, it was, to start, it was a lineup that I didn't expect to see, and I think that was the key of it is, we're kind of going into it. I know there's fixture congestion, but, it was like a 4-3-3 kind of formation. You've got Jackson Travis out wide, which isn't unheard of, but then we've got Navarro as a center back next to Harrington, which I never would have expected. And then, a midfield of Frederick, O'Hader, Hamzat and Ronan. And it's good to see Ronan back in there. I think he definitely fits, and it's good to see him get minutes. Obviously, help, create some of those, chances off that corner, and was, doing pretty well. He's one of the better players on the night, actually, on the, from the attacking side of things. So definitely props to see him in there. But it was just a kind of an odd formation. And then you got Aronson out wide, in the top three with Manungu. It's just, I don't know. I struggled with that formation. I struggled with the way that Wells had the system set with the players he had on the pitch. It just didn't feel like a team that would be starting during a derby game. And I think, it kind of was one of those moments where I was looking at it going, what are we really doing? Are we really going after this game? I don't think that we didn't want to win. I don't think he went in there going, oh, this is a throwaway game, but it definitely felt like there was a priority to win a game, and it wasn't this. And so I kind of understand that. But then on top of that, you saw the initial goals and, the opportunities at the beginning of the game. Like, okay, maybe we're ready to play. Maybe we are going to step into this. And then really, I think even Matt Wells said it after that first goal, things just didn't come together. And where you would expect, a goal to kind of energize the team and kind of, push them forward, the goal seemed to almost do the opposite, where we kind of fell backwards, and we started allowing RSL really to be dictating the game. And we kind of were expecting the goal to happen. Like, when is it going to happen? What's going to be next?
Yeah.
And then it happened, we saw those opportunities, and, one was off of things we've been saying consistently the past couple weeks, really, is lazy quality out on the pitch. And, it's these lazy passes or these half touches or these little moments that we give the ball away, and then we get beat or they capitalize on it. And I think that's the thing that we were, and it's probably has to do with youth and experience. And it has to do with some fixture congestion and just the guys just needing a break. But, that's the kind of the point of it is we have to get through that. We have to be much more clinical on the ball because, those little moments against good teams, which RSL's a great team. I mean, they're third in the West right now. They're consistent. They've been playing well and they've got some good players and they're well coached. So, this is a team that is going to be hard to beat, this season for sure. And we went in there and it just didn't feel like a derby game. It just didn't feel like they were on their best. And so I think that really was the biggest standout for me for this game was we just didn't quite look like the team ready to play.
Bro, and even after the game, we had a brief discussion, like we do after every watch along. I think this was the worst setup from Matt Wells. I always big him up, Krash. That I'm his number one fan. But on the flip side, I thought he got it wrong. I think that this game exposed a lot of what he has been preaching that he kind of shied away from. Right. And I think I even told you after the match, what happened to all this stuff that he was saying? The one that practices harder is going to get the shirt. The one who shows the effort is going to be in the training pitch, is going to be on the field. You mean to tell me that was the lineup he chose? Those were the players that practiced the hardest. What's going on with Darren Yappy? You know what I mean? What's going on with Ian Murphy? What's going on with all these other players who are not getting as much minutes as they more minutes than they could? And bro, we're getting fixtures after fixtures after fixtures, and we're seeing. I fucking hate to say this, but we've been served up the same dross for a few weeks now, and that's what's been frustrating me. And I was not afraid to say that after the watch along. Like Matt Wells, for me, I'm no coach, Krash. You know that. I always have to ask you for advice and your opinion. But as a fan, I thought we were set up wrong to begin with. Mickey playing center back, like, surely we could have done something different, bro. We could have done something different. Where's Noah Cobb at? Yeah. He's been freaking excellent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why not start Rob Holding and take him off after halftime? Why not do something more to freaking fight in the one game that means the most to us? I feel like Matt Wells let us down this game, bro. I feel like he could have fielded a better team. What that team is, Krash, I mean, I'm just going to be an armchair pundit. I'm not going to give you a lineup because I don't know any better. But it was not fun to watch, bro. The goal aside, I think we got lucky to get that goal. Considering the way we played the whole game after the goal, I want to say, it's not like it was against the run of play because it was literally early on in the game. But, we kept saying this during the watch along. Their goal is coming. Their goal is coming. RSL's goal is coming. They scored their goal. We went into halftime. We thought, every Rapids fan was saying, okay, let's just see out a draw. I'll be okay with a draw. We couldn't even do that, bro. We were toothless. And I feel like I haven't even watched any media availability, which I love to do. But that's how out of tune I made myself this week. I didn't want to hear no fucking excuses, Krash. I really did it, bro. I really did it. The best thing Matt Wells could have done that game, homie, is put out a stronger team. What are we doing with Jackson Travis as a midfielder, bro? He was playing in the midfield. I don't understand why. I really don't understand why. Like, I don't know if it was the tactics. And again, I'm going to go back to everything Matt Wells was preaching at the beginning of the season. All the things that I stuck my neck out, you know what I mean? I made a dope-ass video about Matt Wells explaining what I thought we would see. And granted, I said we were going to see boring football. I know that. And I know that why? Because it's going to take time. And I'm still like, I'm probably over reacting. But, I would have expected a lot more, Krash, from our team, from the players on the pitch, from the managers, who I think got booked again this game, which I've been asking for freaking discipline from our whole team. And when you have the captain of the ship who doesn't care about picking up cards, bro, where he's going to end up watching the game from the South Bank, my homie. You just watch. He's going to get suspended and he's going to have to watch from the stands. And I'm going to make him come stand in the South Bank with us, homie. Krash, am I over thinking that, homie? Or were we not told to expect differently? Were we not told that, if you fight for your spot in training, you're going to wear the shirt? Well, then that just makes me even think that the players that are not starting, they're not worth the hell in practice. Since this was the opportunity for you to fight for your spot.
Yeah, no, and I get that. And I think the frustration is valid. And I think the reaction makes sense. And, this is a game that means a lot. And it also is a game that, when the season isn't going well or when things aren't, positive, that it's a game that we want to see effort and results, and we want to see a team that is going to fight till the death to win it. And I think that was the big thing that I kind of was frustrated by, was that, once that second goal happened, like, it didn't really look like we had an opportunity to come back. I mean, there was maybe one or two shots there towards the end that we could have been better on, that maybe, but it wasn't like, you look at the XG, we didn't create any big chances there. We weren't making any, real effort to get that, that second goal. But I agree with you, though, that, I'm looking at the players and their ratings and how they performed. I look at how they performed the week before or the couple days before in Minnesota. Keegan had an amazing game. Noah Cobb had an amazing game. Rob Holding came off the bench, had a higher rating than any of the center backs that they had out there. Why was Navarro, a center back next to Lucas Harrington when we had, Noah Cobb on the bench and Rob Holding on the bench and Egan Rosenberry on the bench? I look at Kosi Thompson had a very mid game. It was, if you're looking at the ratings, it was a 5.4. Travis was a 5.1. You're telling me that Keegan isn't a better position for either of those in this game? I'm not going to say he's not going to make a mistake or he's not going to have, moments, but,
who knows what that's
thing I'm looking at.
Crash.
But Rosenberry is a player who knows how important this game is. Rosenberry is a player who is a freaking beast. Have you seen him when he's out there, when he's training, when he's warming up, when he gets on the field? He does not look like he's the oldest player on the team. He looks like he's somebody's out there battling his ass off, who took a pay cut since the salaries came on. He took a pay cut to stay with the team, about a tune of about $100,000. This guy is every time has come off the bench and looked dangerous. Every time he's hit the pitch, he's looked like he is a captain. He looks like he is, commanding the team forward. And I've always seen positive results with him on the field. And so I think I look at that from a coach's perspective of, why is he not out there? You can't tell me Jackson Travis, although I like Jackson, he's a great kid, great player, homegrown, right? But you can't tell me Egan is a better option than Travis in these moments. And so that's where I struggled the most with it. And those kind of situations. So
all will be forgiven, Krash, if he picks a super strong team. I've been one of these guys that say, we made it to the quarterfinals of the US Open Cup. Let's place our eggs in that basket. I'm even on some podcasts that we've had in the past, I've even come out and said, I wouldn't mind losing some of these fixtures in the run-in if it means we're going to take this cup seriously. So I know
Absolutely.
I know, I feel the way I do about Matt Wells right now and the team, but I'm going to keep focused on, I guess, what's the bigger picture. Tomorrow we have a big game, which we'll get into in a while, but it can all be forgiven if we do come out with a strong lineup, right? Because
Yeah.
it looks obviously that he was resting some of our players. So I guess it's a bit unfair to criticize that. But the thing is, the caveat is, if we see those players tomorrow night, or I guess today when you guys are listening to this podcast, and if not, my homies, you're going to see an even more fuming Leo on the next podcast, because I hope that it was not in vain, and I hope that it was in lieu of pursuing, a trophy for us Rapids fans. But Matt Wells, I just want you to know, we hold highly that Rocky Mountain Cup, right? It's ours 2 years in a row. If you look at it, coach, you'll see that RSL is heavily engraved on the left-hand side of that trophy. On the right-hand side is the pits. We need to get our name etched in that joint a few more times to catch up to them. So we need to do so by winning these games away and here at home. Now back to the podcast, Krash.
Yeah, right. No, I think it did seem like there was a priority that this game wasn't one of them. I mean, again, I don't think any coach ever goes into any game saying, "Oh, this one's the one we can throw away." He tried to put his best effort in with the right tactical play to win it with the players he felt he needed to play with, and prioritizing probably tomorrow's game, and or if you listen to us today's game, right? So I think that's the thing that we have to put on those lenses to kind of understand is this team also isn't built for these types of stretches. We don't have. I mean, I mentioned it, I think, on the watch along, is I think this was really a failure of Wells and the front office, and it's not because Wells is a bad coach. It's because the front office has not provided the level of quality of players that needs to play in Matt Wells' system, that have all of the pieces that are needed to be that type of team. And then Matt Wells has failed because the players that he's had haven't developed or gotten or are playing in the way that he needs them to play to make his system work. I think he speaks highly on these guys, and I'm not trying to knock any of these players because some of them are really good players. But I mentioned it, and I think in the last pod, is they are very young, up and coming players that haven't truly shown what they're capable of. They've shown glimpses, and they should be this good player. But how many should be amazing players have existed in pro football, soccer? So many. Like there are so many almost Messi's, almost, like almost the best player in the league, in the world, in this whatever, right? And they're all pretty forgotten because they this is the next big thing, and then they don't happen, and then they disappear. And it's not saying that these guys are going to be that or couldn't be, one of these, MLS lifers that is a solid player that we know is going to play every game and score a bunch of goals, but they're not there yet. And the key is going to be, can he develop them to these players? How quickly does that happen? Because we're showing that the amount of games we've been playing, they're not able to do that quickly and in this type of time span with the amount of games we need them to perform on.
The more that I think about it, Krash, the more and more that just keeps popping up. Matt Wells, at the beginning of his tenure here with the Rapids, said he wants a lighter squad. He said he wants 2 players per position, right? He said he doesn't want any more. I don't know if you remember that. He came out and said that publicly in one of his press conferences. So I can't even I can't even like try and fake the funk and say like, oh yeah, we do have we do have probably a drop off problem from some of our starters to the next to the substitutes. That for me constitutes a front office issue, right? If your gaffer wants, not the heaviest of squads. Let's be real, bro. This isn't a team in England. You're not playing the FA Cup. You're not playing Champions League. You're not playing Premier League. You're not playing Carabao Cup. You're playing MLS games, and we're lucky to be as far as we are in the US Open Cup. So those are just those are two extra games that we've had so far. There's no reason why we should not have been prepared for this fixture congestion. The schedules came out a long time ago. Matt Wells publicly came out and said he wants a thinner squad. The front office gave him the tools to work with. And the one that's going to end up being left upstream without a paddle? Matt Wells. Matt Wells is the one that's going to eat all the freaking hate. He's getting it from me today, and I don't even know where the hell it's coming from. You know what I mean? Like that's the result of what you've given the gaffer, right? And he's the one that publicly came out and kind of put himself on the freaking stand to be hung. You know what I mean? And to break it down, he said he's okay with that thinner squad. So I don't understand why we're sitting here. A game away from, or 2 games away from the World Cup break in freaking 11th place. Granted, that's where everybody expected us to be. The way we came out flying hot, homie, the way we showed that we were kind of picking up Matt Wells' system and the everything just seemed to be clicking, and it's just kind of things have turned, you know what I mean? And I hope Matt Wells, isn't left to, have to bite his tongue or to swallow his words because of things that he said. Even in his press conferences, like he's saying all the right things. Don't get me wrong, but when push comes to shove, I would expect to hold him to that, right? To that standard. Again, I go back to the players on the pitch. You mean to tell me there was nobody in practice that was training harder than him? Or is it just you don't want to start these players, or you don't want some of these players on the pitch? You know what I mean? I don't know, man. And if that's the case, Krash, then I'm totally leaning towards the front office being at fault. Why? Because they've known Matt Wells and what he wanted, and they just haven't been able to facilitate it. But look, I mean, I'm not trying to bash on Matt Wells. I'm just, the more and more that I think about it, and I kind of been stewing on this since that game, like I'm willing to let bygones be bygones. You know what I mean? If tomorrow we hit the ground running, bro, we see a strong lineup. Because not to jump too far ahead in the episode, homie, we're coming up against a tougher opponent than RSL. Granted, it's here at home and it's a different competition. Hopefully we're approaching it differently, but just thoughts, Krash, on what we've been talking about.
Yeah, no, I think the front office does have something to prove here. And I think like Matt Wells said, judge us after the window, not during, like, not right this moment, because they hadn't brought players in, and they brought in Kosi, they brought in Georgie, good additions. And this is still early. And I think the key of it is there's going to be a lot of moving pieces. I think that's going to happen here in the next couple months. Once we get to the World Cup break, those guys are going to get time off, and, some time to recover, time to focus on the system, which I think is going to be really important. I mean, that's the other thing to think about too, is Georgie and Kosi are brand new and have been running from game to game to game with minimal training time in between. And they seem to be favorites of Wells at this point. They get lots of minutes and have been playing out over top of others. Which I think, it's just good, but also, you can't expect them to fully invest in a system when it's been consistently changing, and then, with different formations and so forth, and then without actually having time to do that. So I'm hopeful for change there. But also I think, again, the front office is going to have to shell out. I mean, we have one of the youngest squads in the league, if not the youngest squad in the league, but we're also one of the lowest, the roster, the amount of money that we're spending on the roster is not very much. And you look at the starting roster of what we have is nothing compared to most. I mean, most of these guys playing and starting, I think you look at the starting lineup for this past game, and I'm just going to say it here. You've got Jackson Travis, basically league minimum. Navarro has a good salary. Nico Hansen, basically league minimum. Harrington, a little bit over league minimum. Kosi Thompson, league minimum. Wayne Frederick, league minimum. Georgie Manungu, league minimum. And then you've got Navajo, Aronson, Ojidaran, and Ronan after that. All, Ronan's the lowest of those, of those three or those four. But I mean, like, you just look at the salaries of the players alone. It's not that they're not good players. They're playing with the contract that they have, and I get that. But like, you go toe to toe with the other teams in the league with players that aren't expected to be playing at that level, you're going to have these kinds of moments. You're going to have these times of games, and it's up to the front office to provide players that are above the quality that we need to win. And sometimes that is going to come at a cost, because you look at down below that, the players we have on the bench. Alexis Manyoma is making $800,000, $700,000 and hasn't played any. He's alone. I mean, granted, he's there on loan. Yappy just got a big pay raise, so now he's $800,000. Reggie Cannon's $700,000, something like that. You've got Josh Atencio, he's around that. Rob Holdings over $1 million. Those are all. Those we had our highest paid players on the bench. So
No, bro. I mean,
that's where I kind of struggle.
Yeah. No, I think this game was. I'm hoping it was a one-off. You know what I mean? Like, I mean. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the game, bro, before we move on. Honestly, we've talked about the way I guess Matt Wells tried to approach it, and with the lineup and stuff like that. But I guess this is honestly this is the first major criticism I have of the Matt Wells era, right? And it showed, because once we score, we stopped doing what Matt Wells wants us to do, which is dictate the tempo. You know what I mean? Be strong and physical. We dropped deeper, Krash. We allowed RSL to gain their possession. We struggled to play through the pressure, and of course we became more reactive instead of proactive. And against a confident RSL team at their place, my homie, that's always going to be dangerous. And of course, it took a lazy pass from Jackson Travis and a great cross from one of their players, right? And they punished us, my homie. They absolutely punished us. What would, besides some of the stuff that we kind of already talked about, Krash, what was something that, went wrong for the Rapids, bro? Where did it go wrong for the Rapids? From the lineup and the first stuff we talked about.
No, I think it was, there was just the connection. The quality wasn't there. I think our midfield really didn't do anything. Like, we played the ball wide a lot of times. Anytime the ball felt like it got in the midfield, it just kind of got blown through. And so I think, that was a struggle for me. Was, Hamzat is amazing, central defender, defending midfielder, but, he can't do it alone at the same time. And I think the way that the players got either spread apart or played through, it just showed some weakness in that, either in the formation or the tactics that we had for that game that night, or just the fact that those players just aren't suited for that type of style. So that's where I kind of struggled. I know we're very light on midfielders right now to a degree.
Yeah.
And so I get that. So hopefully we can fix some of those problems with some time and training, I think. But I think that's one of the biggest things is just it felt bad. And then we weren't clinical. Like there was nothing about our passing, our attitude, like just the way it felt like we approached like the moments of the game that really made me confident. And it was more of like, oh, when's this first mistake going to happen? And we saw it right with that first goal. So, again, it's these little things, these little flick-ons or these little passes or half touches that go to nowhere or just straight mistakes. And I think, we've got to get past that. We've got to get into a rhythm of, really being clinical with the ball, really being fundamental with our passing. Like, you don't have to be this tiki-taka, like bouncing around and trick shot, bounce, go from behind. And these, like, those things are great when they happen, but when they don't, they just make you look like you're doing something wrong. Right. And it's like, how about we just do it right? Like the easy way, right? First. And once I see that, then I'd be fine with these little passes. I know these guys are capable of it, but also like, let's just pass well. Let's just connect those passes. Let's find those through balls. Let's curve that ball around to find that sprinting winger down the field. Let's have that 3-on-1 rondo in the middle of, in the midfield to bounce that ball, through and break those lines and get to the next level. Like those are the things I want to see. I don't want to see this like backwards pass and, oh, he wasn't there. And then we lose possession, right? Like, let's retain possession. Let's find those passes. Let's find those line breaking passes. Let's not be afraid to take a person 1v1 and then, make a move and then make a pass. There's so many opportunities that I struggle with as a coach, seeing these kinds of things where it's like, no, do the pass well first. Like, I know they're capable, but do it well first. Like, nobody cares if you're like, you're not going to make a highlight reel every single game. You're not going to, like, we don't need to, like, we want to win. Like, so play the ball well, play these passes well, play them clinically. And you do that, then the things start coming. And then the momentum starts building. Then the confidence starts building. And then you start clicking with your teammates. And then those things start happening where you can, do these no look passes or these backwards, pass into a run, those moments. But the way we're doing it now, I think that's the biggest problem is we're just not clinical and the quality isn't up to par with the level of play that we're against.
Well, and even so, to second that, you know what I mean, on the defensive side of the game, right? We're not, obviously, offensively, we've had some struggles. Defensively, Krash, I try to think back. Teams are not carving us apart for 90 minutes, bro. We're kind of losing on these lapse of judgments, right? Those one turnovers, those one missed mark or a failed clearance. Except for Vancouver. Vancouver being the only exception, I can generally say Vancouver whooped our ass, up and down the pitch on both ends. You know what I mean? So apart from that, homie, we haven't defensively, I don't think we've been that out of sorts. I think it's more so we're being let down by the offensive part of the game. And so let me ask you a question, Krash. Is, as a coach, my homie, and we all know defenses win championships. I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't think, our defense is going to win us the championships, but it's a start, right? Would you much rather shore up your defense and allow less goals in, or would you approach it more like, hey, you guys are going to score, we're going to score, we're going to just slugfest it out, you know what I mean? And it's just the better of the two offenses to win. From your point of view, homie.
Yeah. Well, for me, I would much rather have a team that can defend first than I would be just score as many goals as possible and then can hopefully concede less. I feel like getting a defense right is much more difficult than getting an attack right. Like you can buy an attack. You know, like if KSE wanted to shell out the money, we could buy an attack. And you can buy players that on paper, and I think with Wells' system, should be able to score lots of goals. What's really hard is buying a defense, right? Buying a defense that's going to be as locked down as you need it to really be, you know, that mindset. So it's a struggle, right? You're kind of balancing both sides. I think one, Hamzat was a massive add to that defensive, you know, minded player. I think Rob Holding has really stepped up and has been a solid player as a center back and has been playing very well. I think Noah Cobb has shown his ability. You know, I think that was a great add. And then just Lucas Harrington is a freaking beast. You know, so I think you look at our center midfielders or our center defensive players, right? Our center backs and our center defensive mid. Atencio is kind of in that mix as well. I think he's becoming a very solid player for us as well. You know, that's really strong. So I'm comfortable with those. But then you kind of go out wider and you look at our fullbacks, and I still feel confident with our fullbacks. I think Kosi is was a good add. It'll be kind of TBE to see long term how if he can develop and keep getting even better. Jackson Travis is kind of in the same boat. You know, not quite sure, you know, where his ceiling ends up or where his mean is kind of at, where he kind of levels, you know, and that's the player he's going to be really consistently. But Keegan, solid fullback. I'm kind of surprised he doesn't get more minutes than he does.
Yeah.
Reggie Cannon coming off with injury, right? He's been kind of hit or miss. He hasn't really been like the most amazing fullback that we've had, and to me has been a bit of a kind of that like I don't like it kind of feels like a Zach Steffen to me, where is he the best fullback on the team? Well, he's getting paid the most as a fullback on the team, but he's not quite living up to the expectation of what that salary would be. And so I think that's where I struggle with him. Miggy, I think he's a good add. He's alone. I would imagine that they pick him up. I think Wells really enjoys him. I think he's a good, solid addition to this team. But again, you know, is he going to be consistent for us? You know, that's the question. And it's good to see him playing all over the pitch, but I think he's best when he's playing a fullback, not as a center back, right? Again, all these things. I think our defense is really solid. And then we have a Loic Williams coming in the transfer window, and another center back, right? We'll see what happens there, because that seems like a lot of movement or a lot of center backs to have on a team, and there's going to have to be some sort of movement there to kind of alleviate that. But yeah, outside of that, defense I think is pretty solid. I mean, all those players are good, solid players. Should be playing better than they are. But I don't think that our defense is failing. I think our attack is failing, because our defense fails when we can't play out of the back properly. Our defense fails when we can't properly win those balls back after we lose them, right? And so I think it's our transition moments from attack to defense where we struggle the most. We have the ball, we have possession, and we're working through. We lose that and we don't win it back quick enough, or we lose it because of a mistake that then puts us in a dangerous position. That transition piece is something that we have to fix, or we're going to struggle as a team.
Yeah. No, homie, and I like, look, I'm super glad that we, as much as I love, going to Dick's Sporting Goods Park, as much as I absolutely love, co-hosting the watch-alongs, I think our team is just due a break. It'll do us very good to take a break. Before we even move on, though, bro, we've been banging this drum on the podcast. Discipline, 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 discipline. Reggie Cannon comes back in for first few minutes, bro, yellow carded. Josh Atencio on for a few minutes, yellow carded. Hamza, rash, yellow carded. Again, even Matt Wells, I think, was yellow carded. Bro, at some point, where do we draw the line and say, all right, you guys have to be more disciplined? We've already seen Atencio get a suspension for accumulation of yellow cards. Maybe even Hamza, I'm not sure. Or if not, he's right there, bro. You know what I mean?
Hamza,
And Atencio, yeah. So, and I think Atencio did too. And he wasn't even starting at the beginning of the season. He was coming off the bench like he did this game. You know what I mean? And he just missed a couple of games. He missed a couple of games with a head injury. Comes back and gets a freaking yellow card. Bro, that's something that bothers me. You know what I mean? I absolutely enjoyed our team when we were a bit more physical at the beginning of the season. But I'm just starting to wonder, like, we've lost. First of all, we've lost that physical edge to us. We've lost that bite. Now we're just doing reckless fouls, and it's become somewhat, it's just become dumb, in my opinion, bro. Like, how are we getting these yellow cards? And a lot of it has to play into, like, we don't have the best referees in this league, but at the same time, like, you do dumb stuff, you're gonna have to pay the consequences for it, Krash. And our team is paying the consequences for a lot of their mistakes, bro.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I tell my girls all the time, like, our tournament, we struggled with our referees, and it's part of soccer. Sometimes you're going to have a good ref and you're going to get the calls, and sometimes you're going to have a bad ref and you're not going to get the calls. We come in playing the physical style of football that Matt Wells wants to play, and you're going to get those bad calls. You get a reputation as that team. Those referees are going to want to manage the game to control that type of play. So you're going to get those cards, and it's going to happen. So it's something that it's going to have to be adjusted, or else we're going to have massive problems with yellow card accumulation down the stretch. And that's not when you want it to happen, right? They don't wipe away eventually. Like you accumulate enough, and then you get a suspension. Then you accumulate a lesser amount, and then it just keeps progressively getting worse and worse for you the more yellow cards you get, and then there's fines and other things. So, like, we can't continually keep doing that. So we're going to have to address it. But yeah, I think discipline is a big piece of it, and they're going to need to really lock that in for this kind of the second half of the season, post World Cup, because if they can't get that focus and that discipline right, it's going to be a really tough stretch.
Krash, to just before we move on very quickly, my homie, I got to do this to you every podcast. Positives and negatives, my homie.
Positive, Nico freaking Hansen. I'm gonna just call it out right now. He deserves that starting spot, even if Zach's healthy. I mean,
I agree.
He's been the best player on the field for the Rapids the past 2 games, if not more.
No. What about the negatives? I know we've talked about a bunch, homie, but maybe when we didn't speak about it, or just
waiting for you. Oh yeah, all the negatives. We most of what we talked about was negative, and I don't like to be that way. But those are the glaring kind of pieces right now. We just need to get out of this bit of a slump, and our identity as players, as a club, as a team, is tested in these moments. And I think they've talked about this, and our ability to navigate through this and not let it become a thing is really important. So these next couple of games really are going to show what kind of team we are. And so I think that's it.
Yeah. Well, moving forward, my homie, if we've had fixture congestion, it's only about to get worse. Today, when you guys are listening to this, we will be at Dick's Sporting Goods Park later on for our U.S. Open Cup match against San Jose Quakes. And not to look too far ahead, but even on the weekend, my homie, we had go back again to face off with FC Dallas here at home. Krash, let's talk about the game coming up against San Jose. The best way to just, like I said, the telltale sign for me is going to be what happens in this game. What is your approach, my homie? If you're the gaffer inside that locker room, how are you approaching this game? Just given all the shit that we've talked about and just what's been going on, you know what I mean? Is this a fresh slate to just kind of get that MLS voodoo off of us and focus on a new tournament where we've not been the best, but I mean, we've survived and we've made it this far. You know what I mean? So, and we're 3 games away from a potential final. So, how are you approaching this game?
At this point, everyone should be healthy. At this point, we should have that team we would expect to be on the pitch. And so my kind of thought is, my approach is, let's go back to what the identity was when it was working. And that's going to be, that 4-2-3-1, style of play. That's going to be,
Yep.
I'm thinking, most likely you're going to see Kosi, Miggy out wide at fullbacks, Lucas and Holding at center back. You're going to see Atencio and Hamzat or Hamzat and Ronan as the sixes. You're going to see Paxton at the 10. You're going to see a Sealy, Georgie, Yappy combination at winger, and then you've got Navajo at strike. That's what I expect. I want to see us go back to the identity, to the team, the style of play that we were really flying high and a exciting team of attacking players, making goals and chances. If we don't do that, then again, it's a new identity. It's a new formation. It's a new something that I'm just concerned with. So I don't know. I think there's a piece of me that is like, let's go back to what was working, and maybe that's what we were just trying to get to. And maybe we're back. And so that's my hope, is seeing these guys at home playing their best football, like we saw against Houston when we won 6-2, when we played Portland and we played LA. Those home matches where we were an exciting team to watch. Even the, to a degree, the Miami game, right? Like there was some, like we played very well in that game outside of a couple moments. And I think that's the level of play that we're going to need to bring. That team that played, that drew LA at home, at away, that style of play, those players, that team, that dynamic is going to have to be here on Wednesday night. Because if it's not, it's going to be a rough night.
Yeah. No, my homie, if we play like we did in Utah, we're going out. We're definitely going out, and that's just simple as that. Things that I think must change against San Jose, the first one being Matt Wells and our team. The 11 players on the pitch are just going to have to be much more braver, right? Going to have to run more, going to have to just be more bold. We cannot sit deep against the San Jose team. We're going to have to press higher, like I said. That thing that Matt Wells preached about, dictate the tempo. Of course, Krash, a California team at sea level, coming up the mile high. We have to use that altitude. And we're going to have to force San Jose into making errors. We're going to have to be pressing tough, my homie. Make them do that. Another thing I want to say is, if we leave it to transitional play, I really feel like we're going to get eaten up alive. I know, I think they're maybe second or first still in the West, San Jose. So they've been flying high, my homie. They have some potent attack in them as well. You're talking about quick players like Timo Werner coming over from Europe, now playing here in the United States. Gonna be a tough matchup for us going up against him as well. Gonna have to be physical, my homie. The Rapids are gonna have to be physical, recover mentally, and it's gonna be a battle of who can literally sustain the intensity, my homie. And here at home, I fancy the Burgundy boys, Krash.
Yeah, no, and it's definitely gonna be a tough one. I mean, you look at the past results. You've got, the San Jose's last win came against St. Louis back in April. Then they drew one. They drew one to Toronto. They drew one to Vancouver. They lost to Seattle, and then they just lost this past weekend to Dallas. So, I mean, they're in a bit of a, I'm not going to call it a slump, but they're in for them, they're in a stretch of challenge as well. And so I think, you're either going to get a team that's going to come in playing the Rapids midweek and fight as tooth and nail and show their quality, or you're going to have a team that's going to come in and have tired legs and playing at altitude and going to be stretched. If we can capitalize on that, then that might be a really positive result. But if we don't, we can't come at our best, then they're going to be a tough team to beat. And so I think that's the key of it, is we're going to have to catch them on the back foot for us to really shine this game. And we are going to have to be at our best. Like, at our best comes not making those silly mistakes, not making those lazy passes, making those clinical movements, making those clinical passes, making those clinical decisions that make it a dangerous football team. And I think that's the key of it. So I'm hoping that way we show up, and we're not, I don't expect us to be a passive team, but we can't let them capitalize on our mistakes. Otherwise, we're going to get, it's going to be a rough day.
Well, and I'm looking at the weather for tomorrow. I just now seen it's an 8 p.m. kickoff, Krash. An 8 p.m. on a Wednesday. Do these people not think we have lives?
No, I don't think so. I think it's like, oh, you sickos are just going to stay anyway, so we're going to play whatever we want.
Well, and it has been like that on these Open Cup matches, bro. It's been nothing but sickos in the house. You know what I mean? When we had we've had the Colorado Springs sickos as well. You know what I mean? They were sickos, the ones that came over here. So it's definitely going to be probably not a full house tomorrow. But, I think even at that, what a better motivator for, the Rapids to come out and, put on a display for the sickos that do want to show up at, on a Wednesday night at 8 p.m. to watch their team play. Krash, just, I don't know what more you want to talk about the game upcoming. I guess we kind of just got to let it unfold, my homie. But, what about like a prediction or something, bro? What do what do you think what's going to happen? Are we going to survive?
In these cup games, it's been challenging, and we've got the benefit of being at home. I will say this: if we can get a referee that a team that lets the game play and lets it develop and isn't swaying the game one way or the other, I think we might actually have a really good shot. But if we have another St. Louis, or we have another, where we get these calls that are like, what is happening? Or we get, when we played Omaha, it was just, the ref seemed to be just dictating the play over and over. And like, it was just kind of a struggle. And then even in switchbacks, we went down a man, right? If we can play, 11-11 football with a referee that lets the game go, we have a really good shot. But if it starts getting pushed around, I think it's going to be a struggle. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the table, we're 11th, they're second. And we need to take advantage of every piece of that as we can, because I don't think we're an 11th place team. I don't think that, that reflects the team that we can be. It just reflects the team that we've been in the past couple of weeks with the amount of fixtures we have. So here's my prediction is Can we win tomorrow? Yes. Will it be hard? Yes. Will it go 120 minutes, the PKs? I don't think it will, personally. I think it'll be probably won or lost in regular time. So we'll see how it plays out, but that's my guess. But if it does go into extra time, I think it's a diminishing return the further and further we get. So I think we want to win this in regular time because it's going to be a struggle further into that we can get.
Oh, I mean, and we have a surprise, surprise. We have a game on the weekend as well. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
extra time would be probably worst case scenario for both sides, Krash, not just ours. You know what I mean? But for San Jose as well, added time would be and for the fans as well, bro. You're talking about going into an extra half hour of football at 10 p.m., you know what I mean? And possibly penalties. We'll be leaving there at 11, damn near 11 p.m., homie. And I'll tell you one thing, homie. It's 10:24 right now p.m. And I could just imagine if I do 2 nights this late, bro, I'm going to be one grumpy mofo come Thursday. Come Thursday.
Lots of coffee on Thursday morning, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, homie. No, Krash. Anything that maybe we didn't talk about that you wanted to address, or did we forget about something, my homie?
No, I the only thing I will say is I think we have a real good shot as well. This is the game we talked about it. This is the game that we need to win. While we were kind of recording this, the St. Louis did beat Houston in penalties for the game that we'll play next. So if we win, St. Louis comes to us for that semifinal game, and if we lose, St. Louis or San Jose goes to St. Louis. So that to me would be a great opportunity. We win San Jose, we get St. Louis back at home. We can play them 11v11, show them the team that we should have been at that game and dominate and win. And then we're in a good spot for that Open Cup. So I'm hopeful. And I think that's the thing is that we have a good opportunity here to really push forward. We have a couple games and then we get a break. So let's play both of these games at full tilt, full effort, full commitment, and give it everything we have, because you're going to get a chance to breathe once that's up. And luckily, both of these are at home. We're not traveling, so I think it benefits us greatly with that. And so we can really go full tilt till the end of this and get a nice break during the World Cup.
I couldn't agree more, my homie. We're so close to this break. You know what I mean? Just freaking gun it, my homies. Put the pedal to the metal. You know what I mean? Run those stoplights. Not that I'm advising you guys to do that while you're listening to this podcast. Just, you know what I'm saying? In football terms, just do it, my homies. Just freaking do it. No, but look, Krash, will you be there tomorrow, my homie?
I sure will. I will be there. And the benefit is it's going to be general admission. So most likely my daughter and I will be over there hanging out in and around the South Bank with you sickos. So come say hi, come say hello. I'll be over there, dance around. I'm usually right off to the edge just because if we do score and the beer goes flying everywhere, my daughter's not going to be the most excited to hang out there, but we'll be right next to you guys, jumping around and being excited. So come say hi, come say hello to me if you haven't. But excited to see everybody tomorrow.
Absolutely, my homies. No, I'm super stoked as well. Just like I said, I thought it was going to be at 7. It's going to have to rush home, change, and go. But now I could do that comfortably, my homie. Make my way to Dick's Sporting Goods Park and run into you filthy animals. Look, if you made it this far into the stream, I'm just first of all going to say appreciate you. Big yourself up. Don't forget to do the 5 stars, the thumbs up, the likes, wherever it is you're listening to this on any type of platform. Don't forget that Krash and I and the Confluence have its own website, www.theconfluencepod.com, your one-stop shop for all things the Confluence. And with that, my homies, up the pits, and we will see you filthy animals on the next one. Shout out to Rob, our homie from Wales. Big yourself up. Get off me land.
Yeah. My heart, C38, Lil Poison, KTK. Locals on the fly causing turbulence, causing waves on our way to the confluence. New voice for the fans, from the pitch to the stands. My heart, locals in the South Bank lads. Leo Poison, the whole me Krash. Hold up, what's this? A raft on the water to the confluence. Yeah, it's trance, I'm blind to rhymes and laughter. Head to the waters if it's piss you're after. C38, the time is now. Locals on the drums to hold it down. Like the stream and 2 5 stars. The mile high hot spur crash the car. Yeah.